Three, two, one.
Oh, konta. Let's talk about some nerdy shit. Most people see a crack in a wall and immediately fall into one of two categories. The first group says it's probably nothing, the second group is already Googling how much does foundation replacement cost. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Not all cracks are created equally, some are nothing more than cosmetic scars caused by drying plaster, others are your building's way of informing you that gravity is currently winning an argument. Types of structural cracks, your buildings cry for help.
Do you know why you're here?
I'm here for the same reason you is, man. I want some crack.
The good news is that cracks tend to leave clues. Their shape, location, direction, and size can tell you a surprising amount about what's actually happening inside a building. And unlike your contractor, the crack usually doesn't lie. Let's start with the most common crack types. First, there are hairline cracks and crazing cracks. These tiny surface cracks are usually less than 0.1 millimeter wide and occur in paint, plaster, or finishes. They're ugly, but structurally they're about as threatening as a paper cut. Most of the time they're caused by drying material, shrinkage, or minor movement in the finish layer. The wall isn't failing, it's just aging dramatically. Then we have vertical cracks. These run straight up and down and are often caused by expansion and contraction due to temperature changes, moisture fluctuation, or insufficient expansion joints. Buildings move more than people realize. Concrete shrinks, bricks expands, steel moves with temperature. Most vertical cracks are relatively harmless. Most. Then we have diagonal cracks, often appearing in staircase patterns through brickwork. These are far more interesting, and by interesting I mean expensive. Diagonal cracks are commonly associated with differential settlement. In simple terms, one part of the building is moving while another part refuses to cooperate. The result is a crack that cuts diagonally through the structure as the building tries to find a new equilibrium. Finally, there are horizontal cracks. These are often the cracks that make engineers stop scrolling through their emails. Horizontal cracks are generally more concerning because they're harder to create. They often indicate excessive pressure from soil, roof loads, structural movement, or foundation issues. When a wall starts splitting horizontally, it's usually worth paying attention. Your building isn't being artistic, it's sending a message. One of the most important distinctions is whether the crack is in the plaster or in the actual masonry. A crack in plaster is usually cosmetic, annoying, ugly, guaranteed to show up 5 minutes before your guest arrives, but usually not dangerous. A crack in masonry is a different story. Brickwork doesn't crack for fun. When masonry starts splitting apart, there's often a structural reason behind it. That's why masonry cracks deserve investigation, especially if they continue growing. The worst thing you can do is immediately patch a crack without understanding why it appeared. It's like turning off a fire alarm because the sound is annoying. The alarm was not the issue. Let's assume we're looking at a load-bearing wall. Because load-bearing walls tend to become very interesting very quickly. A vertical crack directly below the ceiling. Usually harmless. This often results from uneven pressure distribution and can generally be repaired with filler, sealant, or plaster. A vertical crack running through the wall itself, again often caused by insufficient expansion joints. The crack is now the unplanned expansion joint. Not ideal, not catastrophic. Your house isn't collapsing. Yet. A horizontal crack in a load-bearing wall. Now we're entering the maybe call somebody category. These cracks can occur because the wall lacks enough flexibility to accommodate movement from the structure below. An engineer should assess these situations, because gassing is really an approved structural engineering method. Now for one of the truly dangerous ones. Cracks directly beneath a beam support. This is where the building starts making genuine complaints. These cracks indicate that the beam may not be transferring loads properly into the wall. That means structural support is compromised. At this point, stop asking YouTube and call an engineer. A vertical crack beneath a window. Usually not a major concern. Again, this is commonly linked to insufficient expansion joints and can often be repaired once the movement issue has been addressed. Exterior cracks deserve extra attention because they are exposed to weather, temperature changes, moisture, and settlement. Multiple diagonal cracks running through an exterior wall. Bad sign. These often indicate foundation settlement. In severe cases, the foundation itself may require strengthening or repair, which is never a sentence homeowners enjoy hearing. Horizontal cracks in exterior walls are even more concerning. These can result from lateral forces pushing the facade outward. When walls begin separating horizontally, structural stability may be affected. Translation: call an engineer. Vertical cracks on exterior walls are generally less serious. Like their interior cousins, they often result from insufficient expansion joints. The solution is usually the addition of proper movement joints. Because buildings move, whether architects like it or not, diagonal cracks extending from a lintel above a door or window deserve monitoring. These are often caused by thermal expansion and contraction. Materials heat up, materials cool down, materials argue with each other. The crack is simply the written record of that disagreement. Now we enter the category engineers refer to as, oh no. If cracks appear together with rust stains, there is a good chance that reinforcing steel inside the structure is corroding. Steel expands when it rusts. That expansion creates pressure inside the concrete or masonry. The result is cracking and progressive structural damage. Unlike cosmetic cracks, this problem doesn't fix itself because steel generally refuses to unrust. Cracks above a lintel are another warning sign. These often indicate that the lintel lacks sufficient load-bearing capacity. In many cases, the lintel may need replacement, and yes, that is usually as expensive as it sounds. Not every crack overhead means disaster. Small random cracks in floors or ceilings are often caused by material shrinkage. Concrete shrinks, plaster shrinks, and life shrinks your savings account. These are generally harmless. Cracks running parallel to floor slabs are also usually cosmetic. They commonly result from slight floor deflection, meaning the floor bends a little, the finished layer complains, and everybody moves on. However, cracks combined with rust in concrete are a completely different story. This is often a sign of concrete cancer, also known as concrete rot. Moisture reaches the reinforcement, the steel corrodes, the corrosion expands, the concrete cracks, and eventually pieces begin falling off, which is not an architectural feature. You may have noticed a pattern. Horizontal cracks tend to appear in the dangerous categories more often than vertical cracks. That's because horizontal cracks are generally harder to create. Vertical cracks often result from settlement or movement where the structure eventually finds a new balance. Horizontal cracks usually indicate forces acting in ways they shouldn't. They're often less predictable, harder to diagnose, and more likely to involve serious structural issues, which is why engineers pay close attention whenever they see one. Here's the most important lesson. Never repair a crack before understanding the cause, because cracks are symptoms, not diseases. If you simply fill the crack and paint over it without fixing the underlying problem, the crack will almost certainly return. And when it comes back, it usually returns with friends. So before you grab the filler and paint, figure out why the crack appeared in the first place. Sometimes it's harmless, sometimes it's serious. Good luck. And sometimes your house will simply remind you that architecture is what happens when gravity slowly negotiates with materials over several decades. Usually gravity wins. Types of structural cracks. Your buildings cry for help. Anyway, I hope I gave you guys some information on cracks, and if you're still interested in more AEC topics, architectural engineering and construction, just check out another video on the channel, and thank you for watching. Till next time.